Benjamin Elijah Mays once said, "I believe everyone was born into the world through something unique and distinct." Our host has been fortunate enough to have opportunities which allowed him to discover and fulfill his unique purpose. Unfortunately, every young person has not had those same opportunities. Expanding how we understand education, building community, impacting and improving lives, promoting HBCUs, encouraging lifelong learning. Dean Talk brings together a variety of scholars, community and business professionals, along with student leaders to discuss topics which are critical to improving educational equity and equality in America. Welcome to Dean Talk. Now, your host, R. Wayne Winston.
Hello, everyone. Of course, I am R. Wayne Woodson. This is Dean Talk. We are in season 3. I don't know where the first 2 seasons went, but here we are, and I am so excited. So this season, as you know, we are doing education through a different lens. We are not doing it the way we did in seasons 1 and 2. So you're going to experience my world a little differently this season. Of course, before I get started, my team always makes sure that I have a whole list of announcements. And if I don't do them, I'll hear about it later. So there are a few things going on. One, the Woodson Foundation is accepting new board members. If you are interested, email executive director at thewoodsonfoundation.org. That is my foundation. We are doing a lot of work. And for those of you who have not seen, we did receive our official 501c3 a couple weeks ago, so things are moving fast. And to keep in line with tonight, we are officially launching our HBCU Music Scholarship Program. We are going to be raising funds to support music students at HBCUs across the country. We need your support. This flyer will be posted on all my social media after the show. Like and share it. Every donation of any size is always appreciated. Then on to my personal businesses. RWYN Apparel, my apparel line, is securing brand ambassadors. CEO at RWYN Inc. for that information. And of course, the last 2 seasons, and again this year, we are so happy that Java 365 is our official corporate sponsor. We are looking for other sponsors, so if you are interested, reach out to me. And if you use Java 365, it is an African-American coffee company. Use this code Woodson20 and you'll get a discount. And in addition to that, they will contribute to our scholarship programs. So I'm excited about today. Many of you know me in higher ed or as a consultant. What you don't know is I started my career as a musician. All of my early degrees are in music. I sang classically. I was a conductor. So I'm excited about tonight. I'm also excited that all of the panelists are friends of mine. So without further ado, we are going to get started. I don't like talking, so you might not hear from me again unless I am leading the discussion. So let's get to it. Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
So we're going to start.
Hello, everybody.
We will start with C. Anthony Bryant and work our way around the screen.
Good morning, everybody. I always say good morning because I was told the joy comes in the morning. So, good morning, everybody. I am C. Anthony Bryant. Um, let's see. I am a musician. I have been singing since the age of 2. I am a graduate of Morehouse College and the Manhattan School of Music. Um, I kind of joke and say that I can sing any genre and I don't miss out on any checks. So, yay, that.
Craig.
Well, good evening or good morning. I'm Dr. Craig L. Robertson. I am the art director at Mary Baldwin University here in Stanton, Virginia. I received my undergrad degree at Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia. Go Trojans, HBCU. My master's at Georgia State, and my BMA in choral conducting literature at the University of Colorado in Boulder. It's a lot.
All right, Kean Martin.
Hello, everyone. I am Kean Martin. I am also a graduate of Morehouse College, and professionally, I am a recording artist. And I also currently serve as a teaching artist with the Atlanta Music Project in Atlanta, Georgia. I love music, I love people, and I love remaining a student of my craft. And I'm very glad to be here.
Patrick Daly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Daly. I am a countertenor and opera singer primarily, but I sort of sing every genre, all of that. So like Charles, if it's a check, let me know. I am a graduate of Morgan State University, where I received my bachelor's in vocal performance with a minor in dance education and a secondary concentration in choral conducting. And then I did my master's at Boston University and vocal performance. And now, in addition to performing and such, I am also on the faculty of Tennessee State University, where I am also the founder and director of the Big Blue Opera Initiatives, the Heritage Burley Spiritual Festival, and the W. Crim Singers, aka Wakanda Chorale.
All right, Vinroy Brown, sir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vinroy D. Brown Jr. I am a conductor and educator. I like to pay my bills, so I am blessed to wear many hats. I teach on the faculties at Westminster Choir College and Loyola Marymount University, and enjoy that kind of bi-coastal professor thing, and conduct several choirs. I am a graduate of Westminster Choir College. I got degrees in sacred music and music education from Westminster. And I'm a graduate of Regent University. I went to seminary and got a degree in theology. I do whatever needs to get done to make sure that the roof on my head stays and the lights in the house can turn on. And I'm grateful for all things great and small.
That is always a good thing. Chad.
Hello. My name is Chad. I am a singer / dancer, choreographer, all that good stuff. I feel like I started a few years ago, so I still feel like I'm a new artist, still learning things along the way. I'm enjoying the process, so thank you for having me.
Hi. Hi, can you guys hear me? Yes, my name is Rob. I just first off want to say wow to all of you wonderful, esteemed musicians. I feel so honored to be here. Like, oh my God. I'm an independent recording artist as well, singer, dancer as well. I have a light background in classical music and musical theater. I've been working as an independent artist. This year, I released my first album, and it charted top 2 on iTunes R&B, completely independent in the country. And I've been just working as an independent artist, releasing music and just applying my musical background to what I do as a musician. But I really am a choral freak. Like, that's why hearing everyone talk about like their HBCU, like initiatives and spiritual festivals and stuff. Like, I am so very deeply embedded in choral culture, and it's just like my little thing that I just like have in my heart. But I am very excited to be here because yeah, I feel like there's a lot to learn. So that's me, Ramos.
Glad to have you. And last but not least,
Ikaya. Hey guys, so my name is Ikaya. I'm an artist as well. I'm 25. I live in Atlanta, but I'm originally from Philly. You already know. Um, I do music, so I do. I sing, I rap, and I have a skincare line. I have an organic skincare line. So,
Well, I am glad to have all of you here. So, of course, this is a very diverse panel intentionally, because I want to get different perspectives on the topics that we're going to discuss today. Thank you to everybody watching. Oh, Gail Jones Murphy, we hope you are feeling better and doing well. We know you've been experiencing some health issues, so thank you for tuning in today. So we're going to jump right in. For those of you who've never been on the show, it is raw. You don't know what I'm going to discuss, and we just go at it. So the first topic today is misconceptions. So it was interesting. This is my first topic because Rob Moss just posted on his social media this concept that, everybody thinks they can be a musician. Just, we just wake up one day and then what we do is what we do, and there's no work, and everybody now can be a musician. So let's start with misconceptions. I tend not to put my perspectives on the show. I have another show for that, 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. Feel free to reach out. So
I
who's
feel
first?
like, well, the reason that I posted that because I feel like as an artist, once you come out and you do the videos and you do the chains and you do the numbers and everyone sees that perspective and they think, oh my God, this is such a glamorous thing and this is something that's easy and it's fun and they see you on stage, but they don't know the years and years of preparation that you put into it. And they think that, oh my God, I can do it too if Rob can do it. And it's like, well, yeah, but I've been studying music since I was a child, you know what I mean? So you can do it, but you have to really have that. And I feel like living in Los Angeles, I'm from Detroit originally, but living in Los Angeles, people just are into music for all different reasons and not for the love of music. So I feel like, yeah, that's the biggest thing that I see in my industry, and I just have to let them know, like, the music has to be sacred and the music has to be, good before you have to have a love and an understanding of music. You have to, you know.
Yeah, I like to piggyback off Rob. And what you said was paramount. People just think it's easy. Like you can just go sing a song, you can record a song, and everything is thrown at you. But they don't see the behind the scenes, the hard work, the rejection, the stage fright, the insecurities, and all that stuff. And it's till you actually walk in those shoes and you feel those emotions. It's like, oh, this ain't that easy. So what's the
Yeah.
driving factor is that
And musically, and then musically, I feel like people don't want to put in work as far as like just actually doing the research of what music is, as opposed to just going in the studio and just, it's nothing wrong with auto tune sound, but I just feel like, you know, when you know music like on the level, I don't have a degree in music, but I do have an understanding of music on like a classical level. You know what I mean? But you don't have to be like that, but I feel like there's just no respect for the music anymore. And I just feel like, you know, what do you guys think? I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys hear, the music that's out and have opinions about it.
I have
so like, but you
This
go.
panel has an opinion, believe me. This panel has an opinion.
I have noticed that in the industry in particular, we have moved away from talent and more toward an aesthetic. And so, as it relates to misconceptions, it- because of the advent of autotune, so many people now are able to do what they cannot really do. Do you understand what I mean by
Facts.
that? So many people now are able to, if you have the proper package, if you have the proper aesthetic, we then are able to say, okay, let's slap a gown on you, let's give you an image, and then we push you on out there. And that really absolves a number of people from doing the real work of music and really knowing what they're doing. It's cute when you can slap auto tune on something that, needs it. Fine. But auto tune should not be used for every note. And it is now. People are recording whole albums with auto tune. I don't know if any of you saw the Netflix special with T-Pain and the discussion of whether or not he destroyed music.
I'm not even gonna state my opinion on that panel because
That it was a lot of things, and I feel for him because he felt bad, but then He was the first person to record an entire album like that, and it shifted the game entirely. It shifted the thing entirely. And so, yeah.
I can't
There are a lot of
record
So
misconceptions.
it
without
goes to not just recording anymore, but like people like Beyonce travels with her own sound equipment, and her mics are set to recreate the sound of the recordings.
Oh, yes.
So it's not.
And that's
It
not
was
bad.
one
I
thing
feel
when
like
it was
that's
just in the
necessary,
studio, but now it's not just in the studio.
I feel like that it's not bad. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's completely negative, but I respect you more when I know that you can stand and deliver in any situation. And that's just me personally. I look for that. And I know that's not something that the general public is looking for, but it is certainly something that I look for as a listener, you know, as one who is receiving the art, not just as someone who does it. And it's not just, I feel it's not just because I have trained to do it. I feel that that is what I listen for. You know, I don't listen to people who can't sing. I can't do it.
Period.
Just can't.
Well, you know I don't.
You know,
I can't even record. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about this. You know, especially what we're seeing now. There has been a major shift in the industry, which also has aligned with the shift in education and the shift in things that happen within our communities. So I was kind of taking a couple of notes and thinking about this, like the training grounds that we have communally are gone. You know, I know when I was coming up, when I first started taking voice and things, you know, of course there were school choirs, but then at the church there was a children's choir. And then if there's a children's choir at the church or there's a community choir, so you're in that, right? So you're learning to sing with other people, you're learning to blend, you're learning to express all of those types of things, and getting a grounding in it. But now if we're looking at church, everybody has moved mostly into praise teams. So where the kids gonna sing? You know, we can have a youth praise team, but to get kids to really learn how to be worship leaders at 12 and 10 and 5, no, that's silly, right? You know, so the training grounds there are gone. There was this video, the person of the YouTube channel that I love Aretha Franklin did a whole thing on, you know, what it was basically the video said why the girls can't sing anymore.
I saw that video. Yeah.
And the thing is, basically, if they weren't learning to sing in the church, they learned to sing at school. So your high schools, I mean, I was talking to my mom. We were driving back and forth to Memphis for something for my grandmother. And I was like, you know, I bet back, and she's from the cotton fields of West Tennessee, from the country. And I was like, I bet y'all had good choirs. So she said, yeah, we had good choirs. They sang very well. In the daggone cotton fields. Sharecroppers could sing, could sight read, you're in church, you're singing hymns. Then the music that's coming out now has a lot of, you know, different sorts of qualities. You know, the patterns, the melodies are distinct. You don't just have da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Ain't nothing wrong with that. If you want to vibe, I'm cool with that. But baby, give me something that also can stretch the range. Don't nobody have a bridge no more. So we can't even hear transitions. You know, it's all of these things are a factor. And so then there's this other point I was thinking about, like, yeah, so like because you don't have the music with a lot of distinction and a lot of layers. So now people who are actually sopranos, we sit up here calling them altos. So nobody can really sing. There's no core. So the singers that we're getting coming into the school, and I'm telling you this because the babies coming in, they listening to their popular folks. I used to could say, well, have you listened to Donny Hathaway? Have you listened to Aretha? Have you listened to, you know, like the greats? Have you listened to Barbara? Like, do you listen to these people? And they're like, no, who you listen to? And they start naming the children, and I'm like, okay, but and you impressive, you trying to do that, and now I'm trying to get you to sing on your body. And you don't, and that's a concept that you don't even understand. So the education system, because they have, you know, they dismantled arts in so many of our spaces, and the only people who get access to the arts, the only people that have access to the arts are, you know, people who have the privilege to do so. And so then you're not getting, you know, and so you got to audition for the arts middle school, which you got to audition for the arts high school. If you go to the magnet school, which has a good arts program, you know, but most of the people don't get all of that access. So now we're wondering why people sound a certain way. We're wondering why the music is not as interesting. We're wondering, no, we like I think this is a whole nother thing. I ain't trying to go down a rabbit hole, but I'm gonna just say it, that in many ways, when we have put our education and our trust in our education solely in the hands of other people, yeah, that kind of messes you up, because there were some things that we could do, that we could solidify, that we could build to build up the artistry, not just as singers, but across the board. I mean, your praise dance teams, your church is doing plays. Everybody, like Sunday morning, you singing an anthem, and you're gonna buck and shout and squall. Like, we had the whole thing going, and
Well, I
we let
think
other people get into our
part of the
head.
reason that I developed this panel too, because we didn't just do it in church. Like, music used to be ingrained just in our culture. So whether you're a pop singer or an R&B singer or whatever, it was just part of the culture. And I think it goes back to something that Rob said, and maybe C. Anthony as well. You know, we have kind of dumbed down just the whole concept of music with this concept that just anybody can do it. And
Yeah.
even the people they're listening to, I have no problem with being auto-tuned, because I'd rather be auto-tuned than flat, because most people know auto-tuned singing. But what it's doing for those who are uneducated about the realities of music production is making them think this is how these people sound all the time. And that's a false reality, which is why we will move to the next topic, this concept of classical music versus everybody else. Now, you all know I can't put my iPhone on just random play, because we don't know what might pop up. But there is, especially in Black society, this concept that, you know, like classical music is up here and everybody else is somewhere down at the bottom. So let's just go into this. And I would love to hear from some of the artists who have not spoken yet regarding this topic. What are your thoughts?
Well, I want to just chime in with a little bit of that. I wish we could have stayed. You could do a whole session on the misconception. I think there's so much that Patrick unpacked about that. And I think also that it kind of segues into this notion of classical music versus everyone else, particularly in the Black culture, that I think that it was probably considered a white art, not necessarily an art for us. So we stuck with one thing, and I know I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so we listened to everybody and everything. It wasn't just Black music. We listened to Cyndi Lauper, we listened to George Michael, and we listened to Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston. We listened to everybody. So I think one of the things that I think what happened is this: there was a shift in our society and in our culture that allowed for people to not think of classical music as a legitimate art form. I think another area, I think that another thing about that is that I think that access to it was an issue. And I think Patrick talked about that, and it is a great segue into this. And I'm big about access equity. Yeah, getting everybody an opportunity to be exposed to all forms of the art. You know, as a Black conductor, they want me to teach spirituals and gospel all day long. And I tell them I can do that with my eyes closed, with no hands. That's nothing, because that's ingrained in my DNA. My ancestors passed that down through my bloodline. I can do that with no, but I want you to know that I'm more than that we are more than that. We can sing classical music and turn around and sing a jazz piece. We can turn around and sing a gospel piece and turn around and do all that. And I think a lot of times I would say this, my teachers in undergrad did not believe that we could live in both worlds. It was either this or that. So they put this hierarchy on, well, because you're singing classical music, it's an elevated art form because you have to read. Music literacy was the big thing. Oh, pop music, you can just learn that by ear. Oh, gospel, you can learn that by ear. That's the low level of in their minds. But now we understand that there is a higher level thinking in learning how to play by ear as well. Being able to, you know, orally hear something, I think is important. When I took my students, when I taught at Forest Park Middle School in Clayton County, inner city school, inner city, you know, the poor Blacks, poor whites, poor roaches, everything was poor. I took these babies to see Porgy and Bess. Atlanta Opera did this wonderful educational, Arwayne knows about that. And I told them, I gave them the storyline before, telling about all the drama that was happening, because they can relate to that, because it was a part of, our culture. Drama is a part of where we live, So I took them to the opera, and as they were sitting, you should have seen them on the edge of their seats, looking at people that look like them, singing in the style they've never heard before. And I'm looking at them, my chest sticking out. I'm like, I expose these babies to something they never knew. This is awesome. This is what education is all about. And I think it made an impact in the students' lives because they saw something different. So exposure, I think, is really important to get rid of this whole stigma that classical music is way better than pop music, and pop music is better than this and that. It's the same vocal mechanism. We just utilize it in a different way. Patrick can speak on that. If I'm wrong, correct me. I can the same vocal cord. They don't change because I sing gospel. The manner in which I use it, how I navigate through that is something different. Yeah. So I think that my generation, lived in both worlds. So now we have this advantage where we can teach the classical music to our babies, and we can turn around and teach pop and jazz and hip hop and rap and all that kind of stuff at the same time, bringing value to all of it at the same time. And that it actually coalesces at times. Look at Hamilton. You got all this rap and pop and R&B and some beautiful singing that's happening within that as well. So we just expose our children, especially our Black and brown folks, because they don't have the access. If we don't give it to them, they're not going to get it. I took students on a plane for the first time in their lives. Kids lived in Clayton County, had never been downtown Atlanta until I took them on a bus. So exposure, I think, is key. I don't even know if I answered your question, but I was just talking. Don't be quiet now. Go ahead.
Well, it's a conversation, so your input is valued. But I think you did hit on something that is very important, and that is this exposure piece. It's just like people assumed that all I listen to is classical music. Then they get in my car and 2 Chainz, anybody might pop up on the radio. And people looked at me like I was crazy. But I think it's an exposure thing. And I do think, you and I are in the same generation that, we did it all and listened to it all. And we just, our older people would be listening to that, back then, the G-rated sex music. And then be right over there, singing the gospel on Sunday morning. So I do think it's an exposure thing. What are some other thoughts?
Real quick, the exposure thing is so key, but in addition to exposure, also reorienting how we approach the teaching of this music and of these styles. I've gotten very interested in ensuring that I'm teaching quote unquote Western classical music, and I try to put it in those terms, so we're always putting it like that. So I say Western, I'm teaching it, but looking at it from an Africana lens, looking at it from, when in a music appreciation book or music history books, and someone says, "Oh, when was the first opera written?" And they say such and such a child Italy by so and so, and I'm like, actually, it was probably done in Africa. It was probably done on the continent. We just don't have that music because it was more than likely passed down, or it was written down and they just ensured that we would never know how to find it. So because there was a whole library that was destroyed and all of that. So we don't know where all this stuff is, right? So. And then when you have access, because again, it's about access, but when you have the exposure, then you can also start to see, well, what I do in church ain't so different. Because if they told me to, now if I go for that bark and I just lift it up a little bit, and now I'm in the bel canto. Like, it's not really that far, y'all. This isn't like a far off concept. What we do all works in tandem, and also ensuring that young people see themselves in the center as the root, especially if they are not white, see themselves as the root of and the foundation of it. And then from there, when they walk in and they sing Handel, when they walk in and they sing Strauss, or they sing musical theater, or they sing the R&B, or they sing this, they have a full perspective. Like, no, I can sit squarely in all of this because I literally come from the people that created it. I have every right to own it, and I can reclaim it. And so when we bring it, and when we look at it from that kind of lens, Now kids aren't just looking like, I'm trying to enter into the white world. I ain't trying to enter you into the white world. I want to enter you into the world whichever you want to create and have. That changes the perspective.
And I think, we have to be, most I'm a history person and a researcher. We have to be realistic that the two forms of music indigenous to this country came from our people. The first were the spirituals, and we created those. And what the world considers America's classical music is jazz. The classical music they listen to from, Europe and those people was not created here. So both of the major forms of music that have been developed in this country were developed from us. Now, there's this whole book, and if you want to read on it, you can read the White Spirituals book. I don't, but we all know that those things were created with us, going through our struggles. And that's where a lot of our music has come from, be it pop, R&B, jazz, even the way that we interpret classical music. It is all from our experience, which is completely different. But I would love to hear from some of these other people, Ikaya, Chad, Kian. What are your thoughts? Vinroy?
Before I get called out, I'll just call on myself. I think it's important to note what Craig and Patrick are saying, because those of us who are entrusted to teach the next generation, sometimes I feel are not always equipped to do so, because we tend to tier the levels, the genres of music in which we consider to be legitimate and consider to be true and to be just. And people think, because we are of a certain melanin bless, that we don't know everything. And then I have to remind people, well, my 2 degrees in music, unfortunately I didn't learn as much Black stuff as I wanted to, but life taught me a lot along the way. But I can walk into my arena and I can do a Robert Ray Gospel Mass, and I can conduct the Brahms Requiem. I've literally done both, right? How can we impart that to this generation, and in a way that celebrates the diversity of what we all do? Also, the idea that everything is not always going to be in this Western European form, right? So how can I cultivate the next Dr. Craig Robertson, but how can I cultivate the next Rob Moss? How can I cultivate the next Patrick Daly? How can I make sure that, there are more C. Anthony Bryants in the world, and so on and so forth? Because in order for us to be seen in some arenas, we have to do what they do. We have to do it better than them, and we got to do what we do, and we got to do it the best that we have to do. We literally have to do all of it. There's no if or, there's no if, it's an and. And that's the charge that we have, that I encourage all of my fellow educators to really take to heart. I think people are rising to the call. But it's hard, and it takes intentionality in order to be successful. And it's important to me, because when we're all gone, they're going to be left, and if we don't give them what we have and what we know, the art forms that we love and cherish, and the styles and the history, it'll perish, and God forbid that it takes place. But we have to really consider how we cultivate the next generation.
It's so funny. If I talk to anyone on my panel individually, they talk. But you get people on a live show, and then all of a sudden, all these famous people who are at all these award shows and the Grammys and everything else have very little to say. But it is fine. That is why I'm here. That is what I do. So I want to switch for a second to popular music. Regardless of what your genre of preference may be, that is the prevailing music that most society listens to. I have very distinct thoughts, and I express my thoughts by either listening to people's music or not, which is why most people, if I say I like something, value my opinion, because that is not an easy task. So let's just discuss for a second this concept of pop music. What is Black pop music right now? And how do we describe what's going on in terms of our music currently?
I feel like there's a lot of different there are a lot of different things, but you know, if you look at numbers, you have people like Drake and people like, if you really look at the numbers, the people who really do the pop numbers, it is artists like a Kendrick Lamar, like a J. Cole, like a Drake, artists who do have somewhat of an intelligence to their music. And I did want to say earlier, like, as an artist who is in the mainstream, who also has a background and a knowledge of classical theater, I feel like I have a young audience. Like I have people who are in all different ages and stuff who listen to my music. Younger people, older people, their kids, whatever. And I make it a point to incorporate every element, and they may not know, but I've taken words directly from like maybe a William Dawson piece or a spiritual. Like I took words directly from it on my trials and I put it in a secular song. I really did. And I'll do certain harmony or certain melody things that are derivative of what I, you know what I mean? All different people are able to.
Rob, your phone is cutting in and out. We can't really hear you. It might be easier. No, you're fine. Just usually if you sign out and sign back in, it'll fix it. So we're going to continue on. I'm going to help him. And then let's continue on the conversation. So what is popular music currently? What are your thoughts?
I feel like, you know, pop music. I remember, you know, early studying when it used to be looked at as what's popular. You know, like what is popular. But I think the challenge now, you know, being an artist that is primarily identifies in the R&B soul, you know, genre, it's rough because I feel like a lot of times, you know, even connecting to the topic we were just speaking about earlier, as a Black artist, it is a hard truth that because of my skin color, because of the way I look, oh, you're R&B, so oh, you're automatically hip hop. You know, there's so many barriers that we as Black creatives, as Black artists, will automatically like typecast or stereotyped in, and a lot of the times we spend a lifetime or a career trying to emulate what you see a Caucasian artist doing. What you see is now being looked at as the Billboard Top 40, where you know it's the not necessarily the soulful vibes or the bluesy vibes or the R&B vibes. So I feel like now, in an interesting way, in my opinion, I feel like it's slightly changing, but it's only because there's such a spotlight, I believe, on just everything Black, which I don't think is a bad thing. But in the same token, though it's popular now to be Black, if that makes sense in a way, we still are not having our praises sung as other artists in other genres, if that makes sense. And so for me, I feel pop music. What is pop music by definition? I feel like it's evolving, but at the same time, I don't really see at large like the overall music industry that you know, boiling down to an award show. For instance, if I were to make a pop album, and I think Tyler the Creator kind of drew light to this in recent one of the Grammys, where whatever the category he won, he was like, well, the album wasn't even in this category. Whereas if you have another artist of another background, they can get nominated for R&B, they can get pop, they can get country. But if we were to do that, oh, you're Black, boom, you're here. You know, and that's always been an area, just as a creative, it's like, wow, are we ever going to truly be seen as more than what you're trying to typecast me as? And I feel like by us being creatives, having conversations like this, really showing examples of us, even in the country category. I'm sure a lot of people have several opinions about an artist like Lil Nas X, you know, but the thing that I appreciate, I would say, without knowing him personally at all, it was like, wow, it was kind of jarring. Oh, he's in a country category, but it's like, well, yes, we have those different facets to us. So yeah, that in my opinion, I feel like by definition, it's what is popular. But it just still seems there's a lot of work to be done for Black music to really be revered in every respective genre.
It's just all business at the end of the day. It's whatever propaganda that these labels want to push is what will be pushed. And you have to work extra hard as an artist that wants to push a positive agenda. You have to work extra hard and you still have to incorporate a little bit of things that people are familiar with. But it's like to get that good music, like that music, because there are a lot of artists like myself who still incorporate musical elements and certain elements, but you have to search for them and you have to find them. They're in the underground, they're on the internet. You know what I mean? And you have to find them. And like, I don't, it's unfortunate that it's like that, but like a Lil Nas X, for example, like a lot of those things are, they're so controlled by so many parties that know nothing about music. And if you listen to the music itself, there was a time where the music did live up. Like when Whitney Houston would win every award, it was because she was the best singer. Like, that's what it was. There was a time where that was Black music, where Michael Jackson had the best selling album of all time, because if you listen to it from a musical perspective, it's the best pop album of all time. No gimmicks, nothing, anything around it. And that's not what it is, anymore. And that's why I feel, and a lot of artists like myself feel, a certain sense of urgency in our approach to how we do, pop music and how we want to, change the industry in a perspective, because I do believe that it can be changed, because everybody is young enough to make a change. Like, I feel like I'm still, you know what I'm saying, going to be able to make a change in just a community that I can, you know what I mean? But
Ikaya,
it just
you were about
sucks.
to say something.
Yeah, I was basically just about to say, like, we do have like artists like you guys bring up, like Little Nas and Lizzo. I think it's more so about Black people having to put themselves out. Like, we have to, like you guys said earlier, it's about exposure and access, because like a lot of Black people, like young Black people like myself and like people I hang around, we just always like listen to the same genres. Like a lot of people are just like into the same genres, and even when it comes to music, like a lot of us let ourselves be put in that category. Like when it comes to like, okay, well, like Little Nas X, how he goes so hard for like, the gay community and stuff like that. That's okay, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of influence on like the support that he get, or like the type of people that he want to like his. You see how like he's doing all of this stuff and making all these videos and stuff like that, and he's still thriving. You know what I mean? He's still thriving. He's putting out a whole bunch of like gigs, like exposing gay people and stuff like that, like making sure we have a name for ourselves, make sure people are looking at us, and he's thriving. You know what I mean? So I think it's more so like he's working hard to do it. Like you gotta push to do it, because even me, I feel like I get a lot of opportunities, but I don't really take advantage of those opportunities, and a lot of us don't know how to really take advantage of those opportunities. So I think that's really what it is about, us just knowing, like you guys said, getting the knowledge and then really taking advantage of it, not just letting it be something that we know and just, okay, I know it, but I'm gonna still do my thing. No, I think it's like we got to start taking advantage of a lot of opportunities, because right now, like I think Keon said earlier, a lot of like Black people is getting so much attention right now. So I feel like a Black person, any Black man or woman, can really do anything they want, right? Like anything they want, if they really like push for it. You know what I mean? That's really all I had to say. I don't really have a lot to say, honestly.
So I think you brought up something that I think is critical. When I used to do artist management, you give the artist information. It's up to the artist to whether to do it or not. And I think that speaks to what Ikaya just said. You present concepts, and for whatever reason, people don't follow through. So I'm the type of person, like, this is the information. Are we doing it or not? And if you don't follow through, then it's on you. But I think there are a lot of different opportunities, even in this panel, to utilize each other, to utilize different people. If we're trying to expose, I remember, well, I'm going to tell my age, but maybe 15, 20 years ago, Janet Jackson put that album out and Kathleen Battle was on it, and the people thought this was just something profound. And Kathleen Battle was like, I've been singing for 40 years. And so I think that we can do a better job as people by interconnecting the music. And then Rob brought up something that I think is important. And so did Kian, this concept of these award shows. So most of you know, at my core, I'm pro-black, like blackity black, 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 black. But I am not separatist. I do think that we are setting a standard for our music by other people. And in that, we are excluding all of our music for our own shows. So I had a conversation the other day with someone, and it was about the Grammys. People know I don't watch the Grammys. Like, that is a crappy mess. And I can say it because this is my show. And we are not adequately represented. And then the categories that might be of interest to people, they don't even put on there. But then they were like, well, we have the BET Awards. Well, the BET Awards are wonderful, but they don't represent all of our music either. There is mainstreams of our music that are not represented at the BET Awards. So let's discuss this concept of how we are measuring the success of our music with these various award shows. And not to down the Grammys, you know, it's a big thing of whatever to music people. But how are we going to move forward with acknowledging and representing and honoring all of the music that is us?
I would love to jump in and say I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I feel like this is something I've just been being more conscious of doing just as an individual. I feel like a lot of Black artists, creatives, musicians, etc., we don't celebrate even our own achievements enough. A lot of times you're so used to, okay, I got this gig and I'm focused on this gig, then I got this rehearsal, then I'm trying. It's like we're just moving, that we really take time to just sit and soak in and celebrate what you've done, you know. And it's been so fun for me, even with this pandemic, of all of us, I'm sure we had a while to sit on pause, even involuntarily, but it allowed me time to, you know, even look at my iPhone and look at all the pictures and videos that we've recorded and relive those moments and celebrate it. And that leads me to, specifically with award shows, I have really loved, in my humble opinion, one of my favorite award shows. I love watching the Soul Train Award show. I love the Soul Train Award. And it was one of, I don't know if it's the NAACP Image Awards, probably that one too. The thing that I love about it, even as a young adult, I feel like it displays so many facets of our art. You know, it gives chance for this brand new artist to be introduced to this legend, you know. And I think that us having more moments, like how I think we have the Black Girls Rock and BET Honors, and maybe even a few more, where it really allows us to come together and celebrate our art, celebrate what we've done. And I think in a very cool way, that's kind of why it seems like it's so much more popular now to be Black. Like, we've been doing this all of our lives, but by default, we're going to celebrate ourselves, you know. And I think us having more platforms, I remember in I think John Legend recently, I don't know if he launched it or he's starting something like a Black Grammy something. I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel like us having more moments like that, even with Questlove, I don't know if you all watched his recent documentary. That was life-changing for me, because it was like, wow, all of this footage of these legendary people. And now that he's drawing light to it, it's like a lot of people just don't know, you know? So again, I could go on and on. I just think that it's so special for us to celebrate ourselves first and, you know, come together more frequently to celebrate one another, you know?
I want to say about you know, I don't watch a lot of award shows. I mean, you know, you in grad school, I kind of got shifted out of that kind of thing, show studying over watching. But I will say that I don't know if this is going to speak to that, but I really wish that our up and coming artists and those of you that are out there doing it now would, this is going to sound horrible, will not depend on that for validation, you know, but like what Keon was saying, celebrate yourself. If you know that you're putting out good work, it doesn't matter what this other person says about your music. And I think that, to me, that's what I try to get my students to think about. Like, you know, really the best performance is in your rehearsal. You know, we talk about that in classical music a lot because you're not, it's not about it is about the final product, but not always about the final product because anything can happen during the final product. But I want you the students are tapped into the music when they're in the rehearsal. It's a free, stress-free environment. They're not feeling the pressure of lights, camera, action kind of thing. So, and that's where the true artistry comes out. And to me, that is the product that I'm trying to get my students to experience is this moment in this rehearsal when it all comes together. I mean, the audience clapping at the end of something, that's your mama gonna do that anyway. But I just think that's really important for us to think about what is it that we want the world to get out of this experience. You know, it's not about the awards and the validation, but it is about touching somebody's heart, somebody's psyche, somebody snatching them out of the situation that they're in. You have a story to tell, that's why you sing it. You have something to share, that's why you're sharing it. And it's not necessarily for me to win a Grammy or an Oscar or whatever, but it is for me to help you to get out of the situation that you're in. Because my music that I feel that, you know, I'm Christian, the God gave me is going to help touch you. So to me, I think that having a good product trumps any award show. I don't care about a Grammy. I don't care about any of that. If I have a good product and somebody is touched by the product that I'm sharing with them, even my students, you know, we were singing a song one time and, you know, we were with my little gospel choir, my little school I was working at, and we were singing, bless me, oh Lord, bless me indeed. What is a prayer of Jabez. And there was a young man that was in a hospital. And I said, well, we're going to dedicate this song to him. And I told the students, you know, I want you to sing it as if you're standing over him at that hospital singing this song. Share this with him. That man got up out that coma the next day. I'm not saying it's because of the song. Take that how you want to. But I think the intentionality, I think Venra mentioned that word, intentionality behind what we're doing, I think speaks a lot. So were we always trying to get the BET award? We were always going to be disappointed. We're trying to get the Grammy, we're going to always be disappointed. If we were doing art for art's sake, to touch somebody's life, to make them a better person, to make them a better society member, I think that is the most important piece. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Be quiet.
So I'm gonna push back briefly
That was a word.
on that statement and just say, I think as a former academic musician, we get a little bit more leeway that the art is most important. I think when we look at those who are not in the classical genres or who are trying to become very prominent figures in pop or R&B or those things, that unfortunately those awards mean more in their career success than it would to me. And I hate to say that that's pretty much the reality of society. Even in terms when they start looking at pay scales and equity in performance venues, and those type of things. And those are things that I study now, work on the business side of music. Those things have a great impact of what you won. I don't think it's the correct method of doing it. But you know, everyone on this call, if you have an artist that has 5 Grammys and they want to perform anywhere in the country, they're going to try to figure out a way to make it work. And that is, I think, even speaking of what Craig is saying, that we've gotten away in a lot of it from the art. Music at its core now, no matter what it is a business. If you're at an institution, especially HBCU, they expect that choir to be raising money. If you are a professor at an institution, you need to be recruiting people because every student has a dollar figure attached. Even in the pop culture, you're supposed to sell tickets, and artists don't make money on recordings unless they're writing the music. And so a lot of these people are equating success with what they're seeing, but it goes to what someone said at the beginning. They also don't see all the work that's going on behind the scenes. I took great comfort in being a classical musician because I didn't have some of those mandated popular stresses that other people did. Unless you're a Robert Shaw, you're probably not going to win a Grammy. And that's just the reality of the field I was in. But if I was an R&B singer, the expectation was that you need to bring something to the table. Now, I think the downside is we do not provide equity for our independent artists. the people who are doing just as much work, but who might not be at the caliber of a Kendrick Lamar or the reputation of a Kendrick Lamar yet. Like, Ken, if you really look on his social media, he's sitting in these same spaces with all these people we're naming. But I think that we have really negated the art, which is why I'm supporting what Craig's saying, for the popularity of being famous. And even as Black cultural leaders, and that's what everyone on this call is, whether you want to admit it or not, our culture puts you in esteem based on what you has earned. It's the same reason. Why do we get doctorates? We got doctorates to prove to other people that we already know what we were doing. Craig didn't need a doctorate to direct choirs because he's been directing choirs for 20-some years. I didn't need a doctorate.
Yeah.
I didn't need a doctorate in education. I was already a vice president. So I think that is something we really need to look at, how as a people we are assessing success across the board.
I agree with you, and I want to just piggyback on something from an educator, and you an educator as well, that I think it's really hard for us, we educators, that when we see artists out here winning Grammys, that our students think that they're able to do that as well, and they get frustrated when I tell them, "No, baby, you got a cute little gift, little talent, but you need to cultivate." I have a student that's a junior that just learned how to play scales on the piano, and I'm like, "That's nothing to be excited about, honey. You should learn that when you was 10 years old. You behind the 8 ball. So we have to constantly we have these expectations, and one thing, to be quiet. For choral people, popularly, the show Glee messed us up. They sit in the classroom talking. Next thing you know, lights, camera, action. They turn around, full band, choreography, dance, all kind of stuff. And they come to choir. "Oh, Dr. Robertson, I'm going to be in choir." Because then they see that, oh, no, we spend half the semester learning how to read music. We're not doing choreography and costumes. And there's no band that's behind this curtain. Where we going to sit here, we're going to do the nuts and bolts. So I think that kind of show, gives us this misconception about the ease of doing music. They don't want to do the hard work on the front end that's going to benefit on the back end. So I agree with you that, but I think that popular culture has somewhat made it challenging for educators to do our part, because they want to do that, and it's not gonna work for you, honey.
And I think along those same lines, even for our popular artists, shows like American Idol and The Voice and all these, where these people just get up on stage and in 9 weeks they're an international celebrity. It's doing the same thing for pop stars that are doing this work for years to get this first project done, or have 3 projects out before anybody knows them. So I think you make a very valid point. It's the same for pop artists. I remember when India Arie's first mainstream album came out, and people like, "You just popped up out of nowhere." She's like, "I've been singing in Atlanta for the last 10 years. So that's a good point. I think that, a lot of these things are doing the same thing no matter what genre you're in.
They say it takes 15 years or something like that to be an overnight success. And one of the things that's very interesting in regards to a show, like you can use a show like Glee, right? If you look at the cast of Glee, from everybody who played a teacher, who played a student, they were all trained in this field. They have all been very active as performers. So now you seeing them on the mainstream, but you don't even realize that Lea Michele has been doing this since she was 10. Amber, I forgot Amber's last name, but I love her. But Amber, sis has been doing this forever.
Riley.
Thank you, Amber Riley has been hollering like that since she was a fetus. Y'all missing out. It takes a lot of it, and then on top of that, even the artists that go on to The Voice, that go on to American Idol, we know a lot of these people. When you have a Kyla Jade who was on The Voice, and I know Kyla because she was at Fisk when I was in high school back in the day. She was hollering and killing all over Nashville. You see Davon Fleming, who was on The Voice. Davon been doing that all over Baltimore. These people have been in the meat of it forever. And then the thing about it is the machine don't do you right. That's the other side. The machine only uses you up to where you are valuable. So for those shows, for the American Idols, for all of them, America's Got Talent, my god sister, who's a product of our same voice teacher, William Krim, who taught us to sing and do everything. She was 3rd place on America's Got Talent last season. Christina Ray. Christina been doing that since she was, again, another fetus, right? But what ends up happening once she got the story, because, oh, she's a single mother who's done this and come up, blah, 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 blah. But where is the support from an industry that said, I'm supposed to take care of you? So we have to also be aware of the gatekeepers, the people who we have entrusted to tell us how this thing moves. If we again begin, like, you have this platform here, if we, all of us, using our influence, because if each one reach one, if we all know somebody, like, tell them all to get on and watch this show, then we can build this platform, and then we can also ensure that, because this is one of the things I always say, this is across the board in any industry. Everybody loves to say representation matters. Yes, it does. But representation without intention and without accountability mean nothing. So you have to, so people who are trying to do the representation, what are your intentions? And then we as the community have to hold you accountable. So, and holding you accountable is not just, let me call you and tell you this is a mess. Holding you accountable is also, I'm not buying your record. Because I'm trying to understand, and I'm not trying to get down into this, but there's a whole lot of people out there trying to be up in these stadiums in Atlanta waiting for Donda. But somebody has some restitution they have to make and to deal with the community, because they've said some things and they've done some things and have done some violence. And we need to hold them accountable. But the machine, the glamour, is shifting your perspective. So we got to be careful.
Well, I would add that the people on this call are gatekeepers. In your respective areas, you can make change. And I think sometimes we get so enamored by people being famous enough to push the needle that in reality, if we really look at the people who pushed the needle, they weren't famous when they did it. No one knew who Martin Luther King Jr. was when they picked that man to lead this struggle. Now he's a celebrity. But he was not a celebrity at the time that he was doing the work. And I think that that is something that we need to realize. Those people were us at the time that they were pushing this narrative forward and changing our people. And I think that we all just need to do what we do in our respective areas. And that starts with there being a mandated level of excellence. That everyone knows I'm about excellence. I don't care if you're a pop singer, if you're the twerk queen of Dallas, I just don't care. There needs to be a level of excellence. And that is what our people have historically been known for. Whether it was Marian Anderson singing at the Met, or whether it was Whitney Houston selling out concerts in Africa, we have always functioned excellence. And so as we move to the end of the show, I'm going to go through and have everybody share one thing that you are doing to celebrate yourself as an artist. And we're going to start at the bottom. We'll start with Rob Moss. Yeah, you've been wanting to talk the whole show. We got you. You got it.
No, I don't have. I don't know. I'm kind of one of those people who I'm always moving, so I don't really do too much to celebrate because I just feel like I have so much to do. But I'll have to do something. I don't know. For me, I have goals. For me, reaching my goals, I want to do a theater tour next year, a self-funded tour of all theaters throughout the Midwest. And if I can get that goal accomplished, that'll be something that I'll, pat myself on the back on. But I'm in it.
So now you're young, you're just a couple years younger than me. But I want to say to everyone, just think about, why should other people celebrate your creativity if you can't figure out how to do it for yourself? I think even Craig said earlier, we need to be our number one advocates. And I can say this, having been through a lot where I just took whatever I was doing for granted. And I said the same thing you just said. I'm in the middle of it. I don't even know what I'm doing. And you get awards and stuff. You're like, well, where did I get this for? But we do, especially as Black males, need to begin the process of it being normalized that we celebrate ourselves. Because there are those times when, you know, we want to quit and we don't want to do this anymore, or it becomes frustrating and you're like, this is enough. And in those moments, you need to be able to pull on whatever you do to celebrate yourself. Vinroy, what do you do to celebrate yourself?
Well, interestingly enough, I think I've learned that I cannot celebrate myself unless I am present. So in this season, I am allowing myself to be present. I personally had a very good year, academic year, and now that I have some time to not be in front of a choir and not to be making music, I've now taken time to reflect and be present with myself. And for me, you know, I celebrate others far more than I celebrate myself. So part of that experience is also allowing myself to receive, and I don't say this facetiously, but to receive the praise of those that also choose to celebrate me. You know, allowing my tribe to pour into me, allowing people to kind of lift me up and hold me up a little bit. So I'm finding myself that I'm going to be present, and I like to be present, not in my house. So I find myself very present on islands, and in places that aren't the four walls of my home. So for me, that's the ways in which I choose to celebrate myself. I'm still learning how to do it, but I think I'm getting. It's a process, and I'm on the journey. I can at least acknowledge that I'm on the journey. So for that I'm grateful.
Chad,
how can I follow up after that? I thought it was beautifully said. I'm learning how to, like Benoit said, just letting people celebrate me as well. If people just believe in me and see it in me, I have to not just go with that. But I just want to just say this because I know I was quiet this whole time, but I consider myself a new artist. So I was just really absorbing what a lot of people have been saying. So I think it's wonderful. Me growing up, I never thought I would be a singer, right? So I didn't have that education, as most of you guys have had. And just to hear your perspective is very insightful. I've been a dancer since I was little, so my aesthetic to music is different from just being a vocal performer. And so now that I am an artist, people are starting to pour into me more. So now I can receive that knowledge. I wasn't accessible to that knowledge before. So it's just, to me, it's a part of the journey, the experience, realizing where I'm at in life and where I need to work on and how to improve, but also enjoying it. And because I do music because it makes me feel good. I've been in situations before where I was depressed, but I knew there was this one song that got me out of that every time. And I knew if I could do that for somebody, then it's worth my while. So it goes back to everything we were saying. What's your success? Just healing people and let them know that, hey, you did something for me. So if I can do that for somebody, then I'm good.
Ikaya.
I feel like I celebrate my success by honestly having a long time. Just taking time back to reflect because I feel like I'm always like around, or like you guys said, always on the move, So I feel like when I do accomplish certain things, I just like take time to actually, like, I'm the opposite of Venro. I actually like to be home and just have time to think, and then honestly make new music. Like, music honestly to me is celebrating. Like when I have that opportunity to actually detox and be by myself and start writing new songs, or like writing about the new things that I just accomplished and stuff like that. So honestly, self-care and just being alone, that's how I celebrate, because I feel like I'm always like out with people, or always like with the crowd, and to them that's celebrating, that's them turning up. But to me, that's not, I don't enjoy it. I'd rather be at home relaxing to like celebrate my accomplishments and like reflect on them.
Patrick.
This is an interesting question because, to be very honest, I genuinely, and people who know me are, Dr. Woodson, C. Anthony, Craig, y'all know me, and Venroy, y'all know me fairly well, and you would not guess this, but I don't necessarily celebrate myself and really don't know how. because and I'm going to be very honest about that, because one of the things that always happens, particularly for those of us who kind of have come up in the hard way in the craft and in art, in whatever field, is yes, you were affirmed. Like, I want to say I was very much affirmed in who I was as an artist and as a person, but it was also like, okay, don't just sit there and rest on your laurels, right? You got to keep building and getting better and better and better. And so what I've started doing, even if it's somewhat, superficial, I started kind of shifting my social media. Right now, if you look on my Instagram and stuff, you will rarely see anything about anybody else unless it's on the story. But everything that you're gonna see is Patrick Daly. Because and I think too, part of the reason why I want to, and I think for me, my concept of like celebrating myself or even trying to build up whatever I have, my concept is about what I do is, it's not even about me. The reason why and this actually happened when I was in the 105, the National HBCU Choir, in the inaugural year, and I heard all these singers from all over the country. That was also in, I heard this at Morgan, I heard this at AXO, and I was like, and I sat there in 105 and I said, okay, God, I see what you want me to do. You want me to have this career and have this and go into this field and then be able to bring all of this knowledge and all the experience back to HBCUs, back to our people. And so now I understood my purpose, and now I'm walking in my purpose. Now, the next thing that is required and that is challenged of me is to also say, get yours too. Like, so, because one of the things I tell to my students and I say to mentees and everybody, you can't pour from an empty glass. So it's imperative that we sit up there and it's like, celebrate yourself in all the things. Like, so if you look on my Instagram, you'll see that I'm wearing my little gym shorts and I'm like, oh, look at this. Okay, look at my legs. Bet, because I'm proud. Like, my thighs are coming up. Okay. The shoulders, the chest is doing something. Okay. I sit back and I listen to myself sing sometimes. And, that's also something lately too. I'm kind of in this mindset of going towards creating projects that actually feature me, that also feature others, that bring up, but like creating projects that it's like, no, when I bring this to you, I'm actually going to be the lead. Thanks. I'm just so you're aware. Yeah, I'm the creative producer and I'm the director and the conceiver and also the star, multiple streams. So because that's also a point of celebrating yourself too, get your check. But but again, remembering that it's none of this that we do is about ourselves. So we have to keep a healthy balance of ensuring that we're doing the work and staying in the purpose and being light. But also that we are filling up our own selves, that we are, pouring in constantly, getting what we need, celebrating ourselves. Most of the time that we will celebrate ourselves won't necessarily be where people can see. It may be someplace that you're sitting back and you're like, yeah, that was good. That was everything. And the thing is, you ain't got to tell nobody. You ain't got to tell nobody that you did a fierce old like high C. You know it. And let that also show up in your real work outside. So yeah.
Ken?
I would say I'm still growing in this, but
is that your dog?
Huh?
Is that a dog?
No, I don't know what this is. I'm somewhere in the wilderness. I don't know. That's why I'm looking like I may have to grab this computer and go inside. But I'm sorry.
It's fine.
No, so I'm learning very similar to Mr. Vimroy, like being present and for me, soaking it in, soaking it in and receiving the love, receiving the compliments. I think for so long, I'm sure many of you gentlemen can attest to this, we're perfectionists, you're hard on yourselves. And a lot of times it's hard to genuinely receive when somebody says, that was a great performance. You're like, we're constantly immediately critiquing, but I'm continuing to learn, receive it because that was their experience of you. Of course, you're always going to do your own work, but receive it. And a huge area of celebrating myself, I'm stopping playing the game of compare and contrast. there, of course, is healthy competition, but I feel like we can do that in excess too, where you're constantly comparing and just belittling your achievements. We know in the Black community, it is so common for say, "Ooh, well, when is your little show? Well, what time is your next little performance?" You know, it's just a part of how we speak. But I'm learning to not dim my light, not dim down or water down what I'm doing, and to also just stop comparing and contrasting yourselves. There was a conversation I actually had with my manager just last week, and I felt myself, almost about to come out of a bag. Come out of a bag, not in a very harsh way, but he was basically comparing me to an artist in the same genre, but obviously it was a larger platform. And I was like, well, we're not in the same field, like we are the same genre, but that's like, a dope singer in Atlanta that's popping and you're comparing her to like a Beyonce. No, you can't say that this is your direct competition. She's not. And so I was basically, in my feelings about it, but just being very honest with him. I get what you're saying, but no. And so that's a huge area for me, is just limiting the compare and contrast and just soaking in where I am, and being happy, being proud, and continuing to build for the future.
Dr. Robertson?
Wow, you all have said a lot, enough that I probably won't say anything, but I will say this. One of the reasons why I find it very challenging to celebrate myself is because of the church. In the Black church, we were taught you don't receive the praise. All the praise go to God. God gave you the talent. You didn't do anything. So it's really kind of hard when people say, "Oh, Craig, that was great." You're like, well, and you kind of feel bad by soaking that in, as Keon was saying, like, really taking it in. You just kind of shrug it off. You're like, well, God gave it to him, I'm gonna give back to him. And I don't think that, yes, I think that we should acknowledge, where our gifts and talents come from. We should acknowledge the fact that somebody poured into us, but we should also acknowledge the fact that we were in the practice room. We were the ones sitting at the keyboard learning the music. We were the ones on the stage. The mentor wasn't on the stage. The teacher just stopped right at the, at the curtain. That was about it. We went on and did the rest of it. And I remember watching this, I just binge watched All American. And one of the guys was saying, "Mom, I'm out there taking the hits. I'm out there," because she was saying, "Oh, I built you. I opened this space for you." And he was like, "But I'm the one out there taking the hits." And I thought about that. And, this year, this pandemic has really caused me to be, to think about self-care. So I started therapy. I started going to the gym. I started journaling. I started eating better. I had a goal. I've never been on a real vacation because of students. I was always concerned about the next performance, or I can't leave the kids because I gotta be there for them. I took myself to Mexico for 5 days and wore a Speedo with a fishnet top. This might hinder me getting some gigs from saying that, but I'm gonna tell you, that was a goal of mine. Go to the gym, don't be the fat boy in the pictures, Craig. And I celebrated myself. Some of you saw the pictures and thought, I shouldn't say it was a fishnet top, it was a mesh top. Okay. But anyway, and I'm like, Patrick, I was out there like, shoot, look at me. I celebrated myself because I worked really hard for that. And it made me feel more after, when I come back to work, I feel like, okay, I can push on and keep going. And now I'm looking for the next trip. Now, I'm like, oh, the kids will be all right. I'm going to another island. Then we can go to another island. So I'm celebrating myself. Trying to do that is difficult still, because the religious mindset, you still like, oh, you shouldn't be taking on this praise. But, I think the good book says, David had to encourage himself sometimes. So sometimes I look at myself and say, Craig, you did that. That was pretty good. Or I'll even tell the students, when the students say, oh, Dr. Robertson, thank you. No, baby, you did that solo. You sung that part right. I gave you the tools and helped you navigate through that, but you took it to the next level. Some water, some planting, but God give the increase. So I'm going to celebrate myself even more so, because life is short. And once I leave here, they're going to scoop my name off that door and put somebody else there. and they're going to forget all about me. So I'm going to celebrate me, take these vacations, and live my life the best that I can, because at the end of the day, we only got one. We only get one. And I think for us as Black men, we're so accustomed to nurturing, we're so accustomed to being that rock in the heart, that we don't ever take the opportunity to feel that praise and that acceptance. Just because the audience clapped for us at the end, that's not enough for me. We're going to get us a glass of wine and celebrate that too. So I'm going to celebrate me more so than I've ever done before in my life, because I just turned 48. I know I don't look like what I've been through, but I've just turned 48, and life is winding up. So I'm going to celebrate me. That's all I'm going to say about that. Oh, and another thing, I'm saying one more thing. One thing I celebrate. I celebrate nothing. I started my own company. I'm stepping out, celebrating me, knowing that I can do this. I'm stepping out on my own. So yeah, we'll talk about that later. Go ahead.
Before we go to C. Anthony, two things. When you were speaking, I just heard faith without works. And so I think it's important that we celebrate ourselves, because we're the ones doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
That does not discount or displace or downgrade anything the Lord has done.
Discredit
His
God.
intention was for us to do what we are called to do. So I think we need to take time to celebrate that. My shift came when I lived in Europe, and those people go for 2 or 3 months. They put a sign up in the window of the shop, gone on vacation, and they'll be back in 8 weeks. And so I think culturally for us, there is this challenge with, well, two things. One, we should not take time off because everything's going to fall apart, which is a misconception and a lie. And two, like you said, it is not okay for us to take the time we need, for our own mental health, for our replenishment, for us to refocus. And even if you look at people in ministry that are not the same demographic as us, they have mandated vacation periods, and they have mandated sabbaticals, they have mandated time off. And we see less heart attacks. We see less of them dropping dead in the pulpit. We see less health issues and mental health issues. So I think this concept of celebrating ourselves is critical, because the work that we all are doing is so intense that if you don't have balance, we would love for you to see 50 at least. C. Anthony Bryant.
Our brother Brian Major told me to say that I celebrate myself by day drinking. But in all seriousness, Dr. Robertson, pardon you hit on something, that church piece. So growing up, I was taught, be humble and your gift will make room for you, which kind of in itself is a contradiction, right? Be humble, your gift will make room for you. Well, if I am not cultivating this gift, if I am not moving in a direction that does cultivate the gift, if I just have the gift and I do not hone the gift, then will my gift actually make room for me? There was another thing that you said, and you talked about the audience and our intention around the audience and directing things to the audience and uplift and those things. I have found that concerning my worship, God is my main audience. And concerning my singing and whatnot in church, God is the main audience. However, when I step outside of the four walls of the church, I celebrate myself by being the first partaker of my craft. I celebrate myself by listening to what I am actually doing and listening to the work that I have done on this instrument and listening to the changes that have happened over the years with what I do have, with this glorious gift that God gave, but that I honed. And I am now the first partaker of that. So I applaud myself first, which is something that I grew up not knowing how to do. I tell myself, Charles, you really, really are singing well. I first heard Lucretia Campbell was a good friend of mine. And she would sing midnight musicals. And what she would do is she would get up at the musical and she'd do a run. And then she'd be like, "Ooh, I'm in good voice tonight." And then she would keep going. I have learned how to do that. And it's not always that it's a public statement that I am making, but sometimes it is just, I might be singing at a club somewhere and I'll just close my eyes and I'll be like, "Ooh, Charles, yeah, that phrase right there, you sang that." And I celebrate myself in that. So it's really an internal celebration. Day drinking too, yes, glory. But I definitely have learned how to recognize that I have put in significant work to be where I am and to celebrate where I am too, knowing that more could come and I expect more, but knowing that there is greatness that I have achieved already. So, yeah.
I was most people know I'm like the quote king. There was a quote, and I can't find it right now, but Leontine Price said in her career, you know, of course I love hearing my own voice. If I don't love it, why would I expect my audience to? But that is a reality. We have to love what we do in order to keep doing it. And you know, somebody asked me on my text message, how do I celebrate myself? I have started taking time off, and you can't reach me, and it is okay. And whatever you need me to do will be there when I get back. I shut all these emails off and these phone calls, and that is my balance. And I don't want to talk to anybody, and that's fine. And the people who are supposed to be in my life will be there when I cut the stuff back on. I don't go on Facebook and put a whole post about I'm taking a leave from social media. I just don't post. And that is my balance. And people will either deal with it or they'll get over it. It will be fine either way. I want to thank all of you all for being on the show today. Thank you to the audience. This will be kept on my YouTube channel. Share it. Make sure we spread the word about the work that not just I'm doing, but all the people on this call. Follow them. Go to Apple Music. Well, I guess that's kind of biased. Go to whatever musical platform you purchase your music from. Purchase their music. You know, those things matter. You know, we want to support our artists and make sure that they know that we appreciate what they're doing. Yes, we will have a show like this with female artists. I will work on that. This was not an intentional sexist thing. It's just I know all these people personally, and I knew I could get yeses. And certainly we will do this with female artists. Thank you all so much for sharing with us. Panelists, don't sign off. We will be back in 2 weeks. I'm going to be doing a show on creatives. That is not just musicians. We have some, I was about to say real stylists. We have some stylists and designers and people who are actually designing for people off of their Instagram pages. So I want you all to make sure that you follow me on my social media platforms. I look forward to sharing with all of you in the future. Yes, Patrick, yes. Anybody need to plug anything? I know we have a couple of artists who've just come out with albums. Rob Moss, you want to tell them about your album right quick? Who else?
Yes, this was wonderful. This was a wonderful experience. I learned so much from all of you. I just really want to say, so amazing to hear from you. Articulate, well-spoken, educated Black man. Very wonderful. But I did drop my album. It's called Project X. It's available right now, as I stated earlier. It is my first album to chart on the R&B charts, as well as the pop charts as well. And it's called Project X. If you search it up anywhere, if you just Google Rob Moss Project X, everything will come up about it. I have a couple of singles from the album out on YouTube if you do want to check out a single and kind of see, you know what I'm saying, what it is. But that's my name, Rob Moss. And then once again, thank you guys for sharing all of your awesome knowledge, like for real.
And my favorite track is Who Up. If you get that album, you need to make sure that's my favorite track.
Who Up, yes. That music video is out now if you want to go look at it and see if it's your vibe. There's a music video out for it. And I would really appreciate the support. I just got a comment on the Who Up video, and it was like, I'm sad this isn't popular. And I was like, okay, I don't know what I have to do, but I have to, you know, push my music out. So I would appreciate any type of support.
Anybody else have anything they like to share with the audience before we go?
My album came out, it was 2015, but you can still find it on iTunes. See Anthony Bryant. It's entitled Hymnody.
That's a
It is
good
collection
album.
of hymns. Also, if you just type my name into YouTube and just comment on some of the content there. I did a Christmas special last year that aired on Facebook and aired on YouTube and whatnot. And so some of those pieces are still up. So if you just like it, comment, share it, do all of that, anything to, you know, manipulate that algorithm so that more Black people, you know, are seen and heard from, do that.
Is that it?
So I'm gonna just plug this. I don't have any of my stuff out yet, but I'm on 3 projects. Okay, so I'm on the who is that? I'm on Louis York's first album, American Griots, track number 11, I Wonder. I'm also featured on the current the latest release from the Aeolians, and I'm also featured on the what's that boy name? Adrian Dunn's album as well, and then if you go to like on my name, it's at Patrick Daly CT. Go to my it's IG, all of that. See, like you'll be able to go and check out like the YouTube channel for myself as well as the W Crim Singers as well as the Big Four Opera Initiatives. So like Charles, like Anthony said, like make sure y'all are following, subscribing for not just myself, but for everybody, so we can get those algorithms to do a thing. Because there's some good stuff out here, and there's some amazing music that's being made, and some amazing art and conversations that's being had. So definitely, yeah, I'm on. That's yeah.
I love the Aeolians. My iTunes library is. People don't know I'm an R&B person. I don't listen to nothing but Aeolians. That's what my iTunes library is full of.
Well, I want to encourage you to also listen to other choirs too, because there's some other like Aeolians are great. I love Aeolians. I love them, but I also love so many others. So
yeah, there are a few of them.
So follow what Craig is doing. Follow what like
everybody. I'm following.
Follow what Vinroy is doing, because Vinroy baby done put up all these sorts of Messiahs and Elijahs and all sorts of things, baby, and these things are slaying house.
And always you look up and it's like another article is popping up on your feed, but then he'll tell you he's not doing anything.
Can we go back to Patrick, please? Can we go back to Patrick?
I mean, I know I was talking about me, but I'm just saying, like, everybody out here doing something. So I mean,
yes, God is faithful.
At a certain, this is the thing, and I want to say this too. I'm not trying to like do the most, but like, let's just be real about this. We're talking about not celebrating ourselves, but let's be real. For some of us, we have 1 to 2 to 3 degrees in this field. For some of us, we have been doing this thing for however long, from however age, and training in it and being a part of it. You wouldn't be doing it if you didn't think that you could do it. So let's just go ahead and put some of that all out, like, oh, the fault, like, no, go ahead and stand up in it. You done got your student loan debt and your and gone into your pocket to put out your project because because something in you told you, and it might have been the Holy Ghost or whatever that divine thing is in you, told you that you could do this. So let's just be real. And not only do we celebrate ourselves, but let's celebrate the other people, because everybody up here is dope. I done already started subscribing everybody on my what's this thing? Yeah, Kean, I got you already. So like, let's go. Like, the people are fierce. Let's get it.
And I do want to say, although they're being modest today, Ikaya, Chad, and Kean have projects out as well. I remember Kean's very first project. I always say I know all the people before they get famous. Like, I can say that with everybody on here. I remember when Craig was at the middle school and I was driving, an hour and 30 minutes to these concerts. Then you get there and the choir was like 300 kids. I'm like, Craig, we're in the gym. You got the choir concerts on the floor in the gym. But that is something that I take great pride in, seeing the people in my network develop. I remember when Vinroy was at Westminster Choir College. And so I just want to congratulate everyone on here for the work you're doing. And no matter where you are in the process, people are watching. And you never know when that thing will shift or who you are impacting. And so we just keep doing the work. I want to thank the audience. Follow everybody. This will be up on YouTube. Stay tuned for further discussions. Yes, we're getting all these questions about am I going to have people back on? We'll discuss that in the future. People are busy, but we will work on that. Have a good evening. Guests, don't sign off.